Tonight, I got some requests from people, and it's a question I get all the time in my classes, and that is if I want to get a decent print. And, I don't need a print for an archive. I don't need a print for an art gallery. I just need a decent print. Most people, myself included, have trouble when you try and print at home. And it's just one of those things. All of my people that I advise, I tell them, look, feel free to get yourself a black and white laser printer for any printing you need to do at home, but you'll just get very, very frustrated with trying to print your prints at home unless you spend a big load of bucks on a real photo printer and really learn how to use it. And there was a gentleman that did a printing thing. Steve, do you remember? I think is it Tom Marasco? I think a year or two ago he did a printing thing. It's an excellent resource. He's part of the group. And you can feel free to ask him any kinds of questions about printing. What we're going to be talking about tonight is going to be, it's going to be, I call it printing for friends and family. In other words, it's not printing for clients. It's not professional level printing. It's not fine art printing for a gallery or archival printing that you want to send into the Smithsonian. What it is also not, it's not expensive printing, and it's not huge, gigantic wall-size prints. All of those kinds of criteria are the kinds of things that you really need to go to an MPix or an Adorama Prints or Rock Photo Imaging. There's a lot of excellent places, Bay Photo, excellent places that will give you a huge number of options for both printing, the type of paper, sizes, finishes, framing, mounting, soup to nuts. That's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight, what we want to talk about is specifically 8 by 10 prints. And what I find is a lot of times people want to give a print for a Christmas present or an anniversary or a birthday party or just a memento of an event. Maybe you went on a trip with somebody and you wanted to give them some prints instead of just saying, see, look at them on my phone. You can see the pictures on my phone. That's not quite the same thing. So the idea is what we want to look at is when you want to print, but you don't want to pay through the nose for it, but you want something that is fairly good color. It doesn't have to be Pantone quality, color matched, gonna last for 100 years kind of color. It needs to be good color, accurate color. But it's not something we're going to try and match the smile of the Mona Lisa with. So, and generally speaking, most people for this kind of printing, we're talking about 8 by 10s or smaller. 8 by 10s, 5 by 7s, 4 by 6s, or anything in between. It's the kind of thing that you're going to give out to a friend, and I encourage you to because, quite honestly, I really miss, and I say this with a lot of experience, anybody that ever used to shoot film, you'd get your film developed and you'd get back either one or two sets of prints. And so everybody, until digital came along, everybody and their brother had shoe boxes full. I had banker boxes full of prints. I mean, tens of thousands of prints. Well, that's pretty much gone away. Most people now just only ever see their pictures on screens. And it's missing something. And there's something to be said for actually having a print in your hand that is a good representation of the photograph that you took. And so when I'm talking about giving out prints to friends and family, I mean throwing one in an envelope when you're giving somebody a Christmas present, giving them a memento of a trip or an anniversary, something along that line. And again, it needs to be a decent resolution, decent color, and decent detail. And I'm going to talk about how you can try and get there with several of the different options. Okay, so when we talk about pro-level printing, this is not what we're talking about tonight. Pro-level printing, there's basically most printers, most people that print at home use either a Canon or an Epson. Some people may use an HP, nothing against HP, but Canon and Epson seem to have the best options for professional level photo printing. But as you can see here in yellow, Canon, the pro level printers start at $900. They just brought out a new one today, the ProGraph 300, that's $900, that it uses 10 different colors of inks to give you absolutely every gradation. And they're great. There's no question that they work beautifully. And the ProGraph 1000, again, it's a larger printer. It'll do up to 17-inch wide prints. But we're talking about $1,300. And if you're a pro printer or a pro photographer and you want to be able to produce your own stuff, this is the level. This is a business decision. It's a business investment to really show your stuff off well. And the inks that they use are archival quality. They're pigment-based inks. They do a phenomenal job in representing the color. Same thing with Epson. You've got the Epson. The low end on the Epson is the Photo HP 15000. Kind of small, low-profile printer, low output. But it starts at $350, and it's got 6 different colors of inks. And you see the prices there. That price in white is the cost of 1 pack of ink for these printers, and I'll show you a breakdown of how they break down the price per print in a little bit. And then the SureColor P800, this is a beautiful printer, does a phenomenal job, tremendous output, but that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. These are the high-end, high-level. Nobody that I know, except maybe Tom Marasco, has these. You really need to be able to justify it because every print is $2 or $3 because it's worth it, okay, for professional level stuff. What we are talking about is getting prints one of several different ways. You can order prints online. You can order from AmazonPrints.com, and I found that a lot of people don't even know that Amazon Prints exists. AmazonPrints.com it's part of Amazon. It's part of your account. You get free shipping from them if you have a Prime account, but they're not a printer. They're just a front end. A company called Snapfish actually does the printing. And actually, if you compare Amazon Prints against Snapfish, in most cases, Amazon Prints discounts it below what Snapfish offers. They do a decent job in printing. Again, not the absolute highest quality, not the most options available, but decent quality, a huge range of sizes from Amazon Prints, and very, very good customer service. They do a great job. They'll handhold you, and if you don't like what you got, they'll reprint it or do it again, no charge. Another one is Shutterfly. Shutterfly has been around for a while. I use them just to pretty much host pictures for free. Every once in a while, I'll order a print. They're okay, very inexpensive. The color is kind of hit and miss. They're very automated in that they can turn things around very quickly and very inexpensively, but they don't have somebody eyeballing every single print like a place like MPix does. And if you spend any time looking at YouTube lately, MPix has been doing a lot of advertising on YouTube and all over the place. But they really have it down to a professional person with nose color eyeballs every single print they put out. That's what you get for the extra money from a place like MPix or Bayphoto. Shutterfly does not. They crank them out. They're pretty darn close in their colors, inexpensive, and they ship them back to you fairly quickly. So those are your online options. And then there's your same day. If you really need something just real quick, you can go to a Walmart, CVS, Rite Aid, and Wegmans. All of those have in-house printing, but they are, and I've tried them, and they are completely hit and miss. You're completely counting on the machine being calibrated right. The color may or may not be accurate. Wegmans I found to be accurate pretty much all the time, but you just have to go up to the customer service desk, and they have a Kodak printer, a small 8x10 Kodak printer sitting on the back counter, and a kiosk out in front. And there's an app that Kodak, you download and install the app, and Kodak, let me get this open to show you what it looks like. It's called Kodak Moments, and with Kodak Moments, you can either while you're at the store or before you get to the store. Right now, I can order prints and choose which store it goes to, and by the time I drive there, they're there waiting for me to pick up. So that's an option. That's a very good option. Very good color. It's the excellent Kodak printer. They won't do any fine tuning. It's all automated, but very inexpensive. And I'll show you the prices here in a second. Photo does great printing. Up at Scott's Photo, they'll do 1 hour, 10-minute printing. A lot of times I'll order a print that I need, and because I'm driving by there every single day, twice a day, I can just stop by, pick it up, and go. But again, it's all online. You can upload photos to them. They do a decent job, and they have all different sizes also. And then we get to what we're really going to spend time on, and that is printing at home. Now, when we talk about printing at home, there's a couple of assumptions. First of all, if we did a poll of everybody that has a computer in the group, and whether or not they have a printer at home, you get about 25 to 30% of the people that say, yeah, I've got a laser printer at home, or a small percentage might have a color laser printer. Those are strictly for graphics, not for photographics. They are, if it's a black and white printer, obviously it'll give you decent black and white prints, but a laser printer is not going to give you anything close to a photograph quality print of any quality. They're meant to print business graphics, relatively low resolution, and I've tried them, and I've tried the most expensive color laser printers, and they'll give you a color printout, but it's nothing you're ever going to show anybody. It's not a photograph. They're not designed for that. So when you talk about color printers at home, you're talking about usually an inkjet printer, usually either an HP or an Epson or a Canon printer, maybe a Brother printer. All are very good brands. They have good options for you. I saw one today for $29, a new Canon printer for $29. Oh, $29.99. Sorry, $30. And yes, it will produce prints. The downside with those printers is that they are usually only 3 colors: cyan, magenta, and yellow. That's it, and then a black. That's it. That gives you a color print, and they'll even advertise them as photo printers, and they'll print a photo. The real problem is that you get a very narrow gamut of colors that it can choose from. It will struggle to give you a full range of colors, especially if something like a lot of complex skin tones or fall colors. Depends on what the photograph is. Some are better than others. But when we talk about printing at home, those color printers is what we're going to focus on, and how you can get a decent print out of those. And I'll show you some options. I'll show you some steps you can take so that you can actually get a decent print when you do use an inexpensive printer at home. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on that. So this is based on prices as of today. I went up to several different sites and I priced out one 8x10, one 5x7, and one 4x6. And then if there's any tax or shipping, what's the total to get those 3 prints? Okay, so Amazon Prints comes out the lowest for the total at $2.69 for those 3 different sizes. Shipping is free. You do get charged 20 cents in tax, but at $2.69 for those 3 different sizes, that's the best price of everybody. Went to Snapfish, and remember, Snapfish does the printing for Amazon. Their 8x10 was almost twice the price. Their 5x7 was more expensive. Their 4x6 was less expensive. But when you add all those up, along with the tax and the shipping, it comes up to almost 3 times the price. And again, if you have a Prime account with Amazon, you're going to get that free shipping. And you can get it like overnighted if you want to pay for it, but it's the free 2-day shipping. It usually takes 1 or 2 days to process it. I ordered some day before yesterday, and they'll be here tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. So usually 2-day shipping. Okay, so that's Snapfish is another option. Shutterfly, same sort of thing, $2.37, 49 cents, and 11 cents. The total with shipping, and this is the slowest shipping, the least expensive shipping that these offer. All of them will offer faster shipping, but they came out to $10.41. Walmart, and I've gotten prints from Walmart, and they're just not good. The color is terrible. Well, it's up to you. and I'm sure every Walmart is a little bit different, but the machines that they use in Walmart, to me, they spit out prints with no regard for any kind of color balance at all. But at $4.53, you can pick them up at Walmart, and you can certainly get prints that way. But I personally, I would lean away from it. Wegmans, $3.29, 79 cents, and 15 cents for a 4x6. They come out to almost double what Amazon is, but you can pick them up 30 minutes later. So that's a big advantage in that there's no shipping, and you can really pick them up as soon as you can get there, and you can pick which Wegmans you want to go to. Okay, and again, it's done right through the app. You can do it either while you're at the store or while you're right before you leave to go to the store. CVS, same sort of thing, $7.31. You can pick them up, order them online. They transfer them to the store of your choice, and you can pick them up there by the time you get there. Row Photo, $7.97, probably the highest quality of any place that we're mentioning here. A little bit more expensive, but again, you can pick them up almost as soon as you can drive there. Now, if we're talking about printing at home, there are two different kinds of ink for most printers. There's other types. There are printers called dye sublimation printers, and that's usually those little HP has them, Canon has them, Kodak has them. They're a little battery-operated printer. It's sort of like a Polaroid print size print that you can get. We're not talking about those. Those are actually pretty expensive. They're $2 or $3 for a 3x5. But what we're talking about there is pigment-based ink, which is the ink that you get from the manufacturer. And it has physical drops of ink in it, physical drops of pigment that gives you the color for each of those prints. Those are usually the more expensive inks. However, there's another kind of ink called dye-based inks. That dye-based ink is much less expensive, but it also doesn't last as long. But remember, the whole point here is that we're talking about prints we're talking about printing that is good enough. We don't plan on it being around for 100 years. The ones that are based on pigment are archival, and they will last. The dye ones, depending on what light hits them, they're not going to last past about 5 years. They'll fade fairly severely. But quite honestly, when you look at what most people do with most prints that they receive, they'll throw them in a shoebox or they'll throw them out. So this is what I'm saying. We don't want to spend $20 for an 8x10 if somebody's going to say, oh, thank you for this birthday present. Great picture from the vacation we took together or from that cruise. And then they go home and they throw it in a drawer or they throw it in the garbage. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but I'm sure that it does happen. So that's the target of this kind of printing is we're saying, okay, let's give them a print. Let's share that memory with them. And if they really like that print, we can order them one, a high quality one. If they want to put one on their wall, if they would like, if you want to have one for that, then you can spend a little bit more to get one that is archival and mounted correctly and on the right surface that you really want. But dye-based inks are usually third-party inks that come in either refilled cartridges or remanufactured cartridges that you can get for just about any printer on the market. And if you go to Amazon and you look up a printer and then look up the inks for that printer, the way Amazon does things, they'll show you compatible products, and there will be from 100 different vendors options for brand new cartridges filled with very inexpensive ink, and you can get usually 5 to 10 times as many cartridges for the same price using dye-based ink, because it just doesn't last that long and it's much less expensive to manufacture. So if you print at home using dye-based inks, it's $1.50 to get those 3 prints print at home, and the printing at home also includes the cost of the paper, because you do have to buy paper. And pigment-based would be about $4.47. So the ones in green there on the right-hand side, you can see kind of where you land. Amazon Print is going to give you your lowest price. Wegmans will give you an almost instant print for about $4. And if you print using manufacturer ink, the pigment-based ink, it'll be about the same price as if Wegmans printed it for you. Okay, so besides the price, and I wish it was as easy as, hey, just pick out the print or pick out the image you want from Lightroom and hit print, and it'll come out perfect. It doesn't happen that way. So one of the things that I highly recommend, and one thing that I had to do, is I had to find some reference prints, ones that were industry standard prints that had a wide choice of both colors and black and white that I could use to try and test to see if the printer that I'm using could actually do this. Now, I have an Epson, it's called an Epson Workforce 7610. I got it mainly because it's one of these all-in-ones where it has a scanner, a printer, a fax machine in it, which I've never ever used. It has a document feeder, but the reason I got that particular one, it's a big honking thing. It'll do an 11 by 17 scan, and there was a lot of scanning that I needed to do. This particular printer, I've had very good luck with Epson printers, just in the quality and in the color quality of their output. So I got this several years ago. It's been a workhorse. It's been doing great. It has a little brother that'll do up to an 8 by 10 or a legal or letter or legal size, but it's almost half the size of that, and it's same engine and everything else, but it does a great job, and it's got wireless networking, so I can be in China and print to this printer because it goes through the internet, and I can print right to that printer, which is kind of handy. So at any rate, what I'm going to show you, these are the test prints, or these are the test images that I printed out with a variety of settings on that printer. Now, these I will put up, when I post this, I'll make a PDF out of this presentation and I'll post it up in the files area on the group. And in there will be a link to where I downloaded these from. There is one site called, you see it down there on the bottom, inkjetart.com, that has a whole section of downloadable images like this. If you just go there, you'll be able to find it under their resources or articles. But I did find a variety of other prints. This one is both black and white and color, and it gives you, as you can see, just about every kind of color that you can see. And a couple places I want you to look at, because I'm going to show you the prints that I got from my printer here in a second. But the yellow trees right here, the yellow trees on the left hand, or near the center border there, those yellow trees, the yellow flowers, and the strawberries, those are the ones that the printer struggled with to get accurate color. But I'll show you the end result, and I think you'll be kind of pleased. Now, this Workforce 7610 uses 3 different colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and a black. It gets pretty decent life out of those cartridges, but there's nothing special about this. It's not designed as a photo printer, but it will print photos. Now, what I printed on was just standard, run-of-the-mill, everyday Kodak photo paper. It is a coated, glossy photo paper. The other thing that matters, that will give you a much better print when you're printing at home, is if you get higher quality paper. The smoother the surface is, whether you want it matte, luster, satin, glossy, you pick the surface that you want. You can get them in anywhere from 10 sheets to 50 sheets to 100 sheets. I'm just using what I have been collecting over the years, and I've got probably 10 or 15 pages left in this, sheets left in this, and then I'll get another inexpensive printer or pack of paper. Again, when I really want an archival, high-quality print, I'll order it from one of the other services. But if I want to do prints either to hand out to somebody, or like tonight, I'm going to show you some prints, I want to just have a decent photo paper, not copy paper, but photo paper. Photo paper is specific in that it has a coating on it that lets the ink from an inkjet printer sit on the surface and not soak into the paper and spread out. That soaking in and spreading out is what makes it look terrible. If you print the same print on regular copy paper, even high quality copy paper, it's going to soak in and spread out, and you're going to lose all kinds of detail. So photo paper has a specific coating on it, and you can get smoother and higher quality, higher rag content, all kinds of other stuff. There's a whole cult around photo paper. But for these prints, this is just the least expensive Kodak photo paper you can find. And notice I'm using Kodak paper in an Epson printer. I've used Epson paper, I've used HP paper, and I've used Canon paper. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I cannot see any difference between them. So, glossy Canon, HP, Kodak, or Epson paper, I get the exact same results no matter what. So I don't think there's any real difference between the surfaces on those. I'm sure there is some difference, but I don't see it. So for this type of printing, I think we'll be in great shape. So this is one print. Now I want to switch cameras here. Let me switch to that. Okay, so now this is a print from that printer, and this print, if you can see, if you look at these, and I'm going to switch back and forth here. If you look up here at these trees, okay, notice the color of yellow there. Now we're going from a print that's going through a camera that's going through my computer to the internet to Facebook and Google. So there's going to be some clarity loss, and there's going to be some color shifting, but I think it's going to be fairly obvious. If you look at those yellows, there's definitely in the print, and I think it comes through on the screen, there's definitely a lot of orange, a lot more orange in that print than there is in the screen. Nope, there we go. Wrong button. There we are. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, there are all kinds of settings, and I'm going to show you a few of these. There are all kinds of settings when you go to print to your printer. This is where this is where I started, and that is the print was sent to the printer from Lightroom, and I told it to let the printer manage the color. So there's an option letting the printer manage the color, and I'm going to bring up Lightroom here for a second. So here's let's go over here, pull up that same print. So here's that print. Okay, it's rotated because it automatically rotates it. But when I go to the printer, now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This isn't a Lightroom lesson. I'm just going to the printer settings. When I go to the printer settings, and for this particular printer, there is an option here. You choose the type of paper that you're using, whether it's glossy or matte. And these are Epson premium photo paper. I found that to be there's also a photo paper glossy. I get the exact same results. You want to make sure that you're printing on highest quality, not standard quality that's almost draft. So high quality. And then over here under more options, and again, depending on your computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC, this is the Epson print dialog for this particular printer. The higher end photo printers will have more settings, more options, but the key thing here is under color correction. And if you go here to advanced, there's an option for color controls. Now I told this to print in black and white. I don't want to print in black and white. So I put it on color, photo paper glossy, high, and under more options and advanced, now I have a choice of either color controls where I can choose Adobe RGB and then 1.8 or 2.2. I can go to, and I can change the brightness of the picture and do all kinds of adjustments here inside the print driver. Let me make this short and sweet. Don't do this. Don't use that setting. You can if you want. You'll blow through all kinds of ink and all kinds of paper, and you're not going to get a decent result. So I'll save you some trouble. This is more or less for presentation photos, or presentation graphics. If you want to make sure that your bar chart has got the right colors in it, you can nuts with these. You also don't want to let Epson decide how to color correct, auto correct, any of these options. You don't want to let it decide what colors should be represented. No color adjustment, just says take what you got and print it. However, where you want to make the choice is what's called this ICM. ICM, let me see if it has a definition here for you. It doesn't. ICM is that industry standard color management. You're telling the printer, I'm printing using ICM. It's a printer profile that Lightroom knows about, and I want you to obey the colors that I'm sending you. So it doesn't try and adjust anything. It matches a set standard. It's sort of like if you go to measure anything or weigh anything, you need to measure against a set standard. We use rulers. We have a set ruler. Hopefully that ruler is accurate, and when you measure something using that ruler, you'll get accurate measurements. Same thing. ICM is an industry standard color management system that you can turn on, and this will give you the best matched colors for your printer. Okay, so in this particular print driver, I'm going to choose high quality photo paper, and then the ICM color management, and I'm not going to change it. Okay, so the other option, and in Lightroom this is an option, you can choose what this color profile, this color management, you can choose managed by printer, and that's what this that's what this one was, managed by the printer, and it threw off the colors. So not to be confusing, but what you want to make sure is that you're using ICM, but now you need to tell Lightroom, okay, what color profile do I want to use? Well, the one that matches my printer is this Epson Inkjet Printer 07. And I've printed with all of these. This gives me the absolute best. This is the ICM color profile for that printer. That tells Lightroom how to send these colors to that printer. So this first image, this one was printed with the managed by printer setting. Now, if I go to the second image, I'm going to leave this one partially there. If you compare the trees here, this looks a lot more like this yellow from the test image. This yellow looks a lot more like this yellow. This print was done using the Epson Inkjet Printer 07 ICM profile. Bottom line, Lightroom is talking to a standard. The printer is talking to that standard. The colors should match. And quite honestly, they do a pretty good job. And I was immensely surprised after running probably 20 or 30 prints through in different settings with different options. This gives me the best possible color. Now, if I switch back and forth between this image and this image, you're not going to be seeing the same color from being projected by a screen as you will on a print. But the color tone should match. The color tone should match, so that if I have a print, that color tone should be, if I hold it up to my screen, that color tone should be pretty darn close to what's on my screen. It won't be as bright because light is coming through the screen to my eyes, but when I look at this print under normal lights, it should have the same color tones, it should have the same relative saturation as everything else. Okay? So the idea being that we want to get as close as we can with the printing technology that we have. So when I print using this printer and the Epson Inkjet Printer 07 print driver, or print profile, ICM profile, and tell the printer, don't make any changes, obey the ICM print profile, I get actually amazingly good prints from a non-photo printer. I was pleasantly surprised when after several hours of printing, this was about October, November of last year, I actually said, wow, how did I not know this? And after having done some research, I finally figured out how to get a decent print out of these. So the resolution of these this test print lets you test all kinds of things on your printer and compare it to what you're seeing on the screen. So this is another test image, and if we take a look at this, let me admit Bonnie. Welcome, Bonnie. Thank you for joining us. So this test image that you're seeing on the screen right now, this test image, again, it's mainly for skin tones, and to my eye, it looks a little bit yellow. That aside, I'm going to compare it against my print. If I take a look at my print, this print came out with some... I didn't like the way it came out, and this was, again, when the colors were managed by the printer. When I turned on that ICM profile, now I get an image that, and again, on the website, or excuse me, on this broadcast, it's not coming through right. But when I look at this screen and I compare it to this print is dead nuts on. The only difference is the brightness of the colors, and that's the difference between reflective and transmissive viewing of an image. But these colors are dead nuts on. The purples, the skin tones are much more accurate using that ICM print profile. Okay. Alrighty. So let's change here. Okay. And I believe this is my last. Next one. There was several different options here. So this one, this print, it has, and the reason I like this print is that it has some 4 different skin tones, along with all kinds of other things of different color that you can compare it to. And again, these came out just like what's on my screen. Really nice test print. Same sort of thing. I printed all of these test prints with Managed by Printer and that inkjet, the Epson Inkjet Printer 07 ICM profile, and in all cases the Epson profile came out better. I also did a black and white print. Now this black and white print I printed twice, once using color and once using black and white. If you can see a difference, you're one up on me, because I cannot. I believe when I told it to print in color and it saw that it was a black and white print, it only used the black ink. And when I told it use only the black ink, it did. So I can't see any physical difference between these two prints. There might be some, but if I wanted to print a nice black and white print with fine gradations of detail, that printer will actually do it, and I was pleasantly surprised it will. So the idea is that with even a relatively inexpensive printer, and this is not a photo printer, it's just a business level printer, with the right settings, you can get really decent prints. So let's take a look here at some common problems that you'll have when you're printing. Your prints come out too dark. Usually it's because your monitor is too bright and you're trying to match what's showing through on a very bright monitor to what's printing out on your printer. You're never going to do that. We talk in several other classes, I've talked about calibrating your monitor. You really need to do that. If nothing else, turn the brightness down on your monitor. How much to turn it down? You can use the calibration that's built into your operating system, whether it's a Mac or a PC, and you can certainly use that, and that will give you a better color representation. Virtually every monitor I've ever used is always, the brightness is turned way up, usually because you're in a room with fluorescent lights and you're trying to battle against glare on your screen. Do yourself a favor and do some type of calibration on your monitor. If the colors are off, unless it's a new monitor, I had a great Dell monitor, and when I actually looked at it, it was coming up on 10 years old. It had done a great job, but it was getting so off color I couldn't adjust anything. So I got new monitors, and I specifically got LG matched monitors, 2 of the same kind, so that I could not only do these kind of broadcasts, but have a consistent color between them. And then I also got a Spider Spider 5 print calibration. Myself and Rich Healy went in on it, and we pass it back and forth a couple times a year, recalibrate our monitors, and then we're set. So that's a great thing. Find a couple friends that you can convince to split a $100 bill and get yourself a calibration thing, and then pass it around. So get your colors right on your screen. The editing software. I have seen people, and I don't know how or why they would do it, but I've seen people editing their photos using Microsoft Paint. I'm sure the Mac version of that, iPhoto or whatever it is, I'm sure it's better. However, don't. We did a whole video on other editing software, both free and pay commercial. There's some very, very good free editing software that you can actually control the tones. Darktable is one of them. Look in the videos. You'll see when we look at alternatives to Lightroom and Photoshop if you don't want to pay for anything. But it gives you some real control over not only the colors in your photos, but actually printing them. Next, if you're trying to get a color print out of a laser printer, it's just not going to happen. If you've got an older printer, an old OfficeJet printer, invariably the drivers on those are so old. Windows 10 or the newest Mac OS just won't know even how to talk to them correctly. So if you're trying to get a decent color print out of an older printer, and by older I mean 5 years and older, you're going to be a little frustrated because there's not going to be current drivers for it. Speaking of which, when you install your printer, install it correctly. And I mean that sincerely, because a lot of times I'll get phone calls from clients of mine that say, hey, I go to print and it just comes out too dark or too light, or I can't tell it to print double-sided and it's supposed to. If you just take any printer and you plug it into your Windows 10 or your Mac OS, especially Windows 10 will let you print to it. There's a driver for just about any printer on the market nowadays. It will install the Windows version of that printer, and you will be able to print. But it's a light version of that driver. It will install the bare bones to be able to print so that it can physically talk to that printer. The way you really want to do it is, before you plug that printer into your computer, download the software from the website, whether it's Epson or Canon or HP or Brother or whoever it is. Find that printer driver from the manufacturer, install that, launch the installer, and it will then tell you, okay, now plug in your printer. And it will intercept the Windows trying to use the included driver, and it will use the one from the manufacturer, which has all of the features turned on, and you'll then have access to complete control of all of the features in the printer that you just bought. Okay, so install it correctly. Make sure you're using the most current driver. They are constantly getting updated. When I was doing this 2 days ago and I was walking through this, and I said, oh, let's just check to make sure we've got the newest version of the driver. There was a new version of the drivers from about 3 months ago, in January, 3-4 months ago in January, when I last updated it. There was a new driver. Okay, so keep your drivers up to date. That'll also help you with color corrections. Try and find, and sometimes it'll take a little bit of hunting, use the color profiles matched to the printer and the paper. So if you're in Lightroom and you're in here and I go to these printer drivers, if I click on other, look at the options I've got. These are just the printer profiles that are included not only with Lightroom, but are also installed in the system by Microsoft. All right, there's Adobe RGB, there's Color Match RGB, there's these two Epson Standard RGB and Epson sRGB. Then here's the one that I use, and there's all kinds of other ones, other color profiles for monitors, scanners, all kinds of other things. Okay, so go through that list and find the one that matches your printer the best. Or a lot of times you can download them from the printer manufacturer and use that when you're, make sure you have it set when you're going to print. Excuse me. Make sure you have that set to use that driver, that profile when you're going to be printing. Okay. Also, the inks that come with your printer that you buy from the manufacturer, that are manufactured by the manufacturer of your printer, they will always give you higher quality results because they're going to be pigment based versus dye based. I've never seen third party pigment based inks until the other day, and I started to see that there's a whole category of printers that they have, instead of replaceable cartridges, they have tanks. Epson has one. They call it their super tank. I think Canon has another name for it, but it's basically a reservoir. You get a bottle of ink and then you can refill it. Well, I just saw the other day that there are now third-party bottles of pigment-based ink, which if you have that kind of a printer, not only saves you a huge amount of money because you're not constantly replacing cartridges, but it's also the higher quality ink, which is great. Okay, so anyway, cheap dye-based inks and papers will give you cheaper results. Now, you can still get decent results, but the pigment-based inks from the manufacturer will always give you better looking results. And I've got a chart that'll show you the cost of that in a second here. Also recognize that what you see on the screen is an approximation of what you're going to get as a print. Okay? Seeing light coming through your image and presented to your eyes is far different than looking at a print and looking at the output from a printer that's done a decent job. They're going to look different, but they should be close. The tones should be correct. Also, and this has never been more true, the print starts in the camera when you take the photograph. So, if you're taking a landscape photo and it's cloudy overhead, you have low contrast, maybe even some haze, your colors are not going to be saturated. So knowing that, if you want bright fall colors, let's say, or a bright blue sky, obviously if it's cloudy, you're not going to get that blue sky. If it's cloudy, you're not going to get those bright colors in a tree line. So if you want those bright saturated colors, you want it when there's going to be some bright daylight, whether it's first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon. You want to have some light hitting it, not that real soft, flat, low contrast, cloud-based light. That's fine for portraits. Soft, open shade is great for portraiture. But if you want vibrant colors, highly saturated colors in your photograph, make sure you've got the lighting correct for that photograph. So keep in mind, your print starts when you take the picture. Do what you can to get the best possible results in camera before you try and print it. Okay, so we talked about your monitor being too bright. You can use the calibration that's built into the operating system. On Windows 10, if you right-click on your desktop and go to personalization, on the left-hand side, you'll see down near the bottom, you'll find a place where it says calibrate your monitor and calibrate your display. You can walk through that, and on the Mac, it's got a similar capability. It will get you closer than where you are right now. It won't truly calibrate it because it's partially based on your perception of comparing colors against a background, but it'll definitely get you closer than, especially if you're trying to adjust for brightness, it'll definitely do a better job in getting it bright. And I guarantee you're going to think, wow, everything is dark. If you're in a brightly lit room, yes, your monitor might look dark. Turn the lights out in your room. Just have a lower light level, and you'll be able to see the colors in your monitor will come through a lot better. If you have a brightly lit room, that's why people turn the monitors up too bright. Okay? Screen needs to be calibrated. The Spider 5, X-Rite has another thing called a Spider Monkey. They're anywhere from $80 to $120. And again, once you've done it and you see the difference, it makes a huge difference. Well worth it, in my opinion. Editing software, we talked about. Download something, use something like Lightroom or something like Darktable or one of the others that we talk about that will give you more control over your print and that has more control in the actual printing module of it, so that you can get the best possible print out of a relatively inexpensive printer. Something like GIMP, Lightroom, Photoshop. Make an investment and spend some time learning how to use that editor so that you can get the best possible prints out of your printer. You do get what you pay for. There's no question. You can get a printer, like I said, for $30, $50, $60. This follows the old razor blade rule of marketing. Give the printer away and make it up on the ink. That is what most companies have been doing for 20 years now with computer printers. They plan on selling you ink, and it's gotten to a point where most manufacturers now include a chip to try and discourage you from getting third-party inks. However, as soon as they made that chip that would tell it whether it's a third-party cartridge or not, then they started manufacturing those chips also. And when I put a non-Epson cartridge in that printer, it pops up a message saying this is not an official Epson cartridge. You may get varying results. It may destroy your printer. And it may. You take your chance with that. And then use a test image to verify your settings. Print it out with the correct settings and find what works the best that gives you the best possible color for that particular printer that you have. Okay? Like I said, install the correct software, and you can always uninstall that printer, delete the printer from your device manager, delete it, install the right software, and plug the printer in again and get a fresh, brand new copy with the latest driver for that particular hardware. Okay? Use the color profiles that match to your printer and your paper. Use one of the test images that you can either download online or that you can get when I put them up in the file area on the group. Cheap inks are definitely going to give you cheaper looking results. However, a lot of times that's all you need for this kind of throwaway friends and family kind of prints, because again, I have found just from my friends and family, a vast majority of the prints that we hand out you never see again. And maybe they're in an album being saved for later or not. So take that with a grain of salt. They're not going to look the same as on your screen, but they should look close in tone. And make sure you expose and compose correctly to get the right look that you remember when you're standing there. Okay? Alrighty. So here's that other test print that we talked about. And if you look at these skin tones, I'm going to put this so that you can actually see it. I can't do it. Okay. That aside, we're going to stick with this then. Alrighty. So, and these test prints have a wide gradation of both black and white and color for you to do a test match. Okay? Now, so I took some of the printers that you can get. I just went to Amazon and got the lowest price non-photo printers that you can find and compared them to, again, doing the same thing with taking 100 sheets of 8x10 paper. If I was to buy a 100 sheet pack for $10 and print 100 8x10s with that printer and using OEM ink, what's my total price going to be? So the price per print, if you look at these on the right hand side here, the price per print for the HP Envy, and this is the 58 cents is using the pigment based ink, 49 cents using the dye based ink. With the price of the paper, the total is going to be $196 to do 100 prints. Okay? And that includes the that doesn't make sense because it's 58 cents per print. 50, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it'll be, oops, come here. Where'd you go? Come on. Yeah. So the bottom line, the price of the printer is on the far left-hand side. The two at the bottom there, those are those tank-based printers that you save a lot of money on the ink, so they have to charge more for the printer. So the bottom line is, if you look at the right-hand side, you can see what it would cost to print 100 8x10 prints along with the ink. So this is the cost of the paper plus the ink to print 100 pages. It does not include the cost of the printer. Okay, that's what threw me off here. So you go from $200 up to $411 for those to print 100 prints. So printing at home, now you're not going to print 100 8x10s, but this gives you a price. So for one, you're looking at $1.96 for the HP Envy. So you break it down by divide it by 100. So each print would be $1.96, $1.93, $2.13, $2.77, $4.36, and $4.11. So yeah, you can get by with printing at home, but for $2, if we go back to the printing at Wegmans, I can pick up an 8x10 for $3.29, and the color is going to be pretty darn close, and I don't have to mess with it at all. I don't have to buy a printer. I don't have to buy the inks. I don't have to buy the paper. I can just do it on demand and get pretty decent prints. Or Amazon prints, I can get them for about the same price as I can print them at home. Okay? So the price for printing at home, unless you enjoy doing it, economically it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's doable. It is completely doable. So each one of these prints technically is about $2 each by the time I add up the cost of the ink and the paper. Okay, it's not something you're going to be doing all the time, but for the occasional print, it's definitely going to be less expensive than for most of the places that you're going to order from, with the exception of maybe Amazon. Okay, so these are these inexpensive color printers that will print photos, but they're not. They only use 4 color inks, including black. So you'll get okay results, but not great results. So same thing. They're all low profile. They usually include a scanner now, but they do a great job as a printer. You can get decent color prints out of them, but they do take up space. This is one of those tank ones that, again, much less expensive prints once you get the cost of the printer aside. Much less expensive per print when you use these kind of tank printers. Okay, so now when we're talking about printing, the printing that you're going to do from something like Lightroom is going to give you the most control. Same thing with Photoshop, going to give you the most control of that kind of a print. Now, when I talk about these prints and how they're really quite decent in color, when I go to print these, I have no problem giving somebody one of these because I know that these are pretty darn close to what I see on my screen. Now here's the interesting thing. All of these are printed using the dye-based inks. These are not the original equipment manufacturer inks. These are the cheapo depot inks that I can get a pack of ink specifically for that printer for about $5, about $1 a cartridge, and it'll do 50 to 60 8x10 prints for each cartridge. That's not a problem. That's a lot less expensive than going almost anywhere else. If you look at this print back here, that is an Amazon print. And again, for me to decorate my office, I'm not going to put $100 into an archival print. Maybe I should, but I'm just not going to, because I'm going to rotate these out as I go, and that's going to end up in a box. That's an Amazon print. I think that was $20 for a 20 by 30 print of the Freddie Sue Bridge. And so Amazon prints, I've used a bunch. I've had a couple that the color was bad. I'd send them an email or ask to return it, and they reprint it and comes out great. So That's about all I've got for this presentation on printing for friends and family.